Live service ruined gaming.
Games as a service, or live service games as we all call them today,
Sea of Thieves
are
is
games
great.
that forever evolve with new tools and features and grow larger and larger with consistent content drops for months or even years post-launch. Players get a constant influx of content, and developers get a constant influx of money. In theory, live service games can be the best games ever made for
Yeah.
both parties. The very definition.
But they could also
of
be the
a
worst.
win. But, and this is a pretty big but, what does the current reality of live service actually look like?
Jesus Christ.
Broken launches, roadmaps, hot fixes, server maintenance, patch notes, dev updates,
I think that's the biggest problem with like a lot of live service games is that it really seems like it's an illusion. So it gives you a promise of this like great game, but when you actually play it, it's not as good as they claimed. Especially like with the game constantly evolving, there are a lot of live service games I heard are not as great. But the thing is, it takes so much time to invest to actually play. It makes sense like people are reluctant to just quit. So they already invested so many hours that it'll feel like their time they put in was worthless.
apologies, missing features, removing content, disabling content, lack of content.
I think that's the
But
dumbest
no matter
one.
what, that cash shop is always fully stocked and functioning without fail. You know, live service didn't really turn out the way many of us envisioned when we think about the potential live service gaming can offer. And to put it mildly, live service games have been very disappointing. And to put it more realistically, live service games have been destroying the gaming industry in front of our
Alright,
eyes.
why?
Now, companies
so?
aren't solely to blame here. They can only get away with things that the customers will tolerate. Mickey D's can't charge $30 for a McDouble.
But you go to
They
Burger
want to
King.
because their customers just
Or like Wendy's or whatever. You go to somewhere similar.
won't stand for
They,
it.
like the point is McDonald's is not worth $30. So if you charge them much, people won't go. Or they'll go to a restaurant, whatever. They're not going to
In the
spend
gaming
$3.
community, unfortunately, there's a large number of people that seem to really like that corporate cock. They give into and actually defend these corporations at every single
I don't get why
turn.
people do. No, I know why people do it. It's because they attach the corporation with their game, and people want to justify the amount of time they spend playing a game. If you spend 1,000 hours in a game that sucks, you're not going to want to admit it because you already spent 1,000 hours. So it makes sense you would defend the company.
Some of the most basic cuck responses, and I don't use that term lightly. In fact, that might be the
That's the
only
thing,
time
they're not
I've
using-
ever use that term.
You don't when you defend a company, you never really do it through logic. It is extremely rare. There are times that I have seen logic used to defend a company, sure. Most of the time, it's very illogical and emotional arguments.
But if you make excuses for and encourage something or someone to fuck the thing you love, isn't that the definition of being a cuck?
I mean, he's not wrong.
As someone who's been gaming since the early 2000s at a young age, seeing the industry decline to the level it sits today is genuinely sad. My gaming these days consists almost entirely of indie games and my backlog of old single-player titles from pre-2015 because even good single-player games these days are rarer than a Honey Tree Munchlax.
Oh, no, you just need to look hard enough, honestly. Because it's tough to find, because it takes a lot of time to find. They're not rare, per se. It's just they're hard to find. They're like, it takes a bit of searching, but the rate at which good games come out is extremely high. I want to highlight one, for example. If you're someone who really likes roguelikes, like it's really high quality. One of my favorite roguelikes out there. Really fun. Like I would say this is a hidden gem. There are so many hidden gems. But again, there's so many to the point where they're gems and they're hidden, but they're not rare.
Ladies and gentlemen, gaming has never been completely devoid of corporate greed or bad game releases. But my god, are we in a rough place right now. And there are numerous things to point to when discussing where gaming went wrong, and each topic is deserving of its own video. But the one I want to shine a spotlight on today is the cancer that is live service gaming. And I
Okay.
think it's appropriate to start with something that's a bit of a double-edged sword with live service games.
I think this is difficult because I like single player games. That's what I mainly play. But if you're someone who likes live service games, you don't really have many options because you won't really find an indie game that's a live service game. There is Poke MMO. I'm sorry, I'm just pointing that out there. But anyway, you're gonna be hard pressed to find a really good MMO out or just a live service game period. And how do you even know what's worth the time? How do you know like you're not being lied to? How do you know you will enjoy it? Because it takes so much time to sink your teeth into and actually experience it that after you spend 250 hours, if you don't like it, that's 250 hours you spent. And that doesn't even include the money it costs to play the game.
Or launches in a state where it didn't reach its potential, developers are given a second chance to improve the game, add to it, fix it, address feedback and balance issues, and it leads to examples like No Man's Sky or Destiny or Sea of Thieves, which are drastically different.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves is fun to play.
But this is also a bad thing, because this means game developers and publishers don't have to make their launches count. Before the capabilities of online digital patching, a game had to be good at launch or it would review poorly, which means it sold poorly. And poor sales meant bye-bye studio, which meant companies were...
We did see this with a studio that made Saints Row, though, right? They made a bad game, they didn't buy it, it went away, people were sad, but that's what they get.
First, to give us masterpieces like this, in order to turn a profit or even just keep the lights on. But the convenience that comes with patching a game post-launch allows these studios to ship incomplete, buggy, imbalanced, and outright broken games with the promise of live service support to address feedback on these issues. And
I think really what it is that all of a sudden now, in reviews, all of a sudden you see a defense. So if you have a game that'll be rated 3 out of 10, now you can rate it 5 out of 10, anticipating future patches.
Them later.
So I'm Justin Truman. I'm the general manager for Destiny 2.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
CDO at Bungie, Justin Truman, explained in a GDC conference that shipping a bad game at launch is completely intentional. Or in his own words, if you try and launch a new live service game in the 2020s, a simple fact is your game is going to suck at launch. And that's okay.
Here's the thing. Do you know why it's okay? I will tell you right now why it's okay. Simple answer is that people are paying for games that are bad, right? If people stop paying, then companies will learn that they can't make money from it. Until people stop paying, this will continue to happen. So if you like live service games and want this to go away, the way you start is by not paying. Until that happens, this will never go away.
Christ. Launch is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning. Notice how he says it's just a fact it's going to suck. Really think about that. This is the creatively bankrupt mindset of the leaders.
Here's the thing, is that you could say you want gameplay-wise, they're getting away with it, they're still making money. In a way, they're monetarily incentivized to do this because people are still paying. So they're making more money by making it later, because then they don't have to actually make it as high quality. Because if you don't have that promise, suddenly now you need to rely on having a higher quality. When you have the promise of having a high quality, you don't have to actually deliver, and people's expectations are so warped that something that's okay suddenly seems great.
Studios. And why wouldn't it be when there are people out here who will eat this shit up, defend it, and repeat it all day long? I can't tell you how many comments I've seen that say, "The game just launched, be patient." They've already got these dorks parroting this nonsense. And it was only a decade ago when even day one patches used to ruin the reputation of game studios and negatively impact sales at a release. Gamers would tear these companies to shreds online when they heard the words day one patch. But this was back when gamers had some fucking balls. Because we live in a world now where not even the day one patches fix anything. It takes upwards of a year or more than that to...
I think it's a big problem too, is that I don't think there are a lot of gamers that don't value their money and time. And I think part of it too is that as games are becoming more casual to a sense, people haven't really experienced like great games. So even though the bar is low, that's okay. Because, you know, they haven't experienced anything better, so they think that's as great as it's gonna get. So in a way, the companies are meeting the consumer. They're giving the people what they want, and you can't really get that mad at them at the end of the day.
Fix these games until they're finally playable, and even that, I say lightly. Studios are completely comfortable with overpromise, underdeliver because they aren't selling a game at all. They're selling a promise. It might be good eventually. And the real plan is to never fully deliver at any point.
And the only way you ever avoid this as a consumer is, or as like someone who enjoys video games, is to never buy into the promises. Just assume up front. If you assume up front every company is lying to you, I think it will make finding good games a lot easier. It will save you a lot of time, and it'll make your life so much better. I think that's the biggest thing that will help you a lot in the long run.
If you can keep dangling the carrot and print millions, giving the player the carrot would be like shutting off that printer. So
Here's the way I see it too, right? Using this analogy, always assume there's a string attached to the carrot until you're given the carrot.
they won't ever do that, unless they deem it no longer financially viable to do so. Which leads into my next point. All good things come to an end. Now this is also a double-edged sword because we've all at one point said, oh man, I wish that didn't end. I wanted more. And with just a bit more things added or tweaked or changed.
I also think that's why people replay games, right? They play a game, they had so much fun that they don't want to stop. So they experience it again until they eventually fall off or they speedrun it. It's one of the two.
Perfect. In reference to either a game or a show or a good book, whatever it is, we've all said we wanted it to continue. But truly,
Know what it is? I think there's a lot of power in something ending. Because when something ends, it means that the journey you had so much fun going on is now ending. And it's a very unique feeling because you don't want it to end, but at the same time, it has to, no matter what. And I think if you have something continue, what happens is instead of something going out with a bang, it goes out with a whimper. And the things that I think are more impactful and more profound are the things that go out with a bang, because they make you think much more.
good things do come to an end. Case in point, The Walking Dead. Started off strong, kept people interested for a few seasons, then as it went on, it became monotonous and tiresome, and it lost its charm with no end in sight. The writing each season had to be structured in a way that allows for a never-ending story. And what started off as originally a pretty good
I think this is a
story
great example,
ended
by
up
the way.
leaving fans dissatisfied, maybe even resenting.
It's pretty much just a great example of why it's good to have things end. Because again, even though it's upsetting it ends, there's nothing more powerful than a great ending. Because whenever you think of that property, you're going to think about the ending. And that's going to be something that's going to leave... It's like the last impression. Where you have something like this, people jump off at different moments because the quality goes bad. The show is a shell of its former self. It's really what happens. I think it's the same could happen with live service games.
Spent watching the show, and the same can be true with gaming. If The Witcher 3 or BioShock or Fallout New Vegas didn't come to an end, they wouldn't be remembered for being these legendary games that they are. Players might have resented it or become disinterested, like with The Walking Dead. You either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. Which is the problem with live service gaming, especially MMO games or story-driven looters. There's usually 3 outcomes with these
Okay, I
games.
see what he's saying,
Either you
right?
stick around forever, you walk away upset you wasted so much time and money on it, you're pissed you wasted so much time and money on it, but you're already so invested that you feel like you must stick around. You have to see it through. And this is what's known as...
Know what though? There's a fourth option. There is a fourth option you bring up. The fourth option is you enjoy the time you had playing the live service game, and then eventually you let it go, you quit, and you play something else. And I think it's actually really healthy if you play a live service game, and then eventually once you had your fun, you let go. And instead of getting upset and walking away, realize you enjoy it as much as you could and walk away.
sunk cost fallacy. And game studios spend millions trying to figure out just how to exploit that weakness we all have. Like Bungie Studios, who despite trying to appear like this super progressive, forward-thinking company, hires several behavioral psychologists to aid in creating ways to exploit things like players' fear of missing out. So when Bungie goes out of their way to make a mental health resources tab on their website, it feels a little bit performative when they actively spend millions on ways to exploit players' addictive tendencies.
It actually reminds me of casinos do. They do a very similar thing where they'll have things that'll tell you why gambling's bad, and they'll like fund like Gamblers Anonymous or whatever. Yet they still have practices for the casino that make you stay longer, like not having windows, not having clocks. This seems like the same exact thing.
Anxiety from FOMO-heavy game design, which then leads to burnout. 3 things Bungie
It's really
apparently
just
wants to help
taking
you
advantage
fight
of
against.
people. And that's why I like to stay away from these types of games, is because instead of making a good game, they're instead making a game that makes you want to stay longer without it being good. So because they don't have gameplay as the core of their game, I don't bother. I only want to play games that have gameplay as a core and actually exist to try and be a great game.
You know, I'm starting to believe these guys don't actually give a shit about their player base.
They don't.
Developers used to think about creating something that would satisfy the player, but now they are being guided to create experiences where satisfaction is just out of reach. And then they've got a cash shop whispering in your ear, buying this might fill that void. But it doesn't, because it's not supposed to. The game isn't supposed to ever fulfill you. It's supposed to string you along forever. But the thing is, it's harder to get sick of something that ends. It's not impossible, AC Valhalla, but it's a lot harder. You know, there's a certain feeling.
I mean, though, I enjoy my time playing Sea of Thieves, and that game still exists. I just don't play it anymore. Well, I did play it, I enjoyed it, and now it's over.
Accomplishment when you actually complete something, and live service will never give you that feeling. Again, the carrot will dangle forever. There's a reason so many times you'll hear the sentiment of, this game feels like a job. A full-time job that you don't get paid for. In fact, you pay them.
That's why
Like a dumbass.
I get a bit confused why people play live service games, because why would you want all that time and commitment and requirement? Like, whenever I think of a game, the last thing I think of is commitment, and that seems like something that comes with a live service game. I mean, are there people that actually enjoy the commitment? I guess so, but like, personally, I don't really enjoy commitment in games. I just like playing a game that's fun, and that's it.
Because just like a real job, you might only enjoy it some of the time. But most of the time, you just do it because you feel like you must play.
I don't do that. If I feel like I play games, I have to play it, I just don't play it.
Miss out on finishing the battle pass. Or you gotta go grind some
Even like
specific-
Fortnite, I got the battle pass for free, and then I just stopped playing it halfway through. Now, should I keep playing it? Yeah. Again, I never spent money in the game. If I did, I probably would be playing it. So there's that aspect.
items before they get removed in a few months. And also like a full-time job, you're on their schedule. You can't play at your own pace or when you want to because everything has an expiration date. From items to
That's why I
earn
stay away
or
from these
content
types of
to
games.
play. It all has a countdown applied to it. And content gets drip-fed slowly over time rather than all at once. So you're going to be either waiting around or hurrying to catch up. And this is why you're often punished for taking a break in these games. And if it's a PvP game like Apex or Fortnite,
I take
good
breaks
luck
in
trying
games
to
all the
return to
time,
these
by the
games
way.
after taking a few months off, because the strict skill-based matchmaking paired with the fact that the game is filled with players who did not take a break makes your chances of winning or even standing a chance.
That's
at
why I'm
winning
not like,
pretty
don't
low.
find FPS games all that much fun. I mean, I have the most fun when I'm playing Fortnite with my brother and my friend and we fight each other. Because we don't have to worry about sweats. We're all generally about the same skill level. So, and none of us don't play that often. So it's very balanced and much more fun.
Unless you start grinding it like a full-time job again. And what this means for a lot of players is you're locked into 1, maybe 2 live service games because there's only so much time in a day. You can only spread yourself too thin. Forget having time to play indies or single-player titles because the live service games you're playing don't want you to. Having FOMO in these games isn't just so you keep buying their content, but to actively keep you away from the competition. It's designed so that you don't play any game but this one. Not because it's so good, but because
That makes sense, right? Because people only have so much money, so they want them to spend all their money on that game instead of other games. That makes sense.
they give you
I
too
see
many
that.
reasons to be scared of leaving. So you can see the potential problem with companies chasing the live service game trend. The market is already very oversaturated, and it's hard enough to juggle the time between any of these games for a lot of players. So for a new live service to release, it has to be absolutely incredible in order to pull players away from what they're already invested in. And the problem here is, most of them aren't incredible, or even good for that matter, because they were solely created to chase that trend. Now the result of this...
That's the thing, right? The reason these games are failing is because they're not AAA games, so they don't have as big a reputation. That's the problem, right? Is that they're not making games for the sake of making games. They're making it for money. And yeah, you can say, well, it's a company. They're designed to make money. Well, in the entertainment industry, it's a bit different. And because they're not serving since they're not making the best game possible or not trying to, I just don't buy their game. It's not worth my time. And I think the more people do that, the more AAA companies will be forced to change.
Are countless live service games getting 86th mere months after release, even though there's been plenty of fans that have spent hundreds, if not thousands, on in-game purchases. Games that might have otherwise been pretty decent if they had focused on what made sense for their concept, rather than shoehorn in live service elements.
Mm-hmm. This is a great
This
point.
is probably the biggest problem I
Because here's the way I see it, right? Is that whenever games have microtransactions, instead of using gameplay that naturally make a game make sense and be fun, now all of a sudden they design a game to make you want to spend money, and this spending money in a game alone disrupts the pace of gameplay. Because now you do it whenever you feel like spending money. It's an outside thing that you can't control in the game that's influencing the game. I don't want that. I just want to play the game standalone without any outside influence.
have with live service games. Seasons, battle passes, cash shops, these three things have replaced traditional progression systems that used to keep players like myself around on a game for
Yeah, the
ages.
game has any of these. I don't play. Right, I do still play Fortnite. That's because it's free. I play with friends. I don't play that often. Right. If a game has any of these things, I stay far away. Then again, I did play Sea of Thieves. Again, that was because it was on Game Pass. So I don't always stop. But it's definitely something that makes me stay away from a game if I see it has it. So I'll never play Destiny because it has all three of these things.
I think about the original COD games from COD 4 through Black Ops 2.
Great
or
example.
Halo 3 or Gears of War.
Because it would motivate you to play the game. Like, it would still have like a battle pass system, but instead of it being time limited, it was unlimited, and you could pick it up whenever you start playing, and you basically got rewards for playing the game instead of spending money. Now you have to spend money to get rewards to play the game.
Have progression systems that
On top
revolve
of
around
paying for the
unlocking
game, of
good-looking
course.
cosmetics or earning prestigious items through the gameplay experience. In fact, Call of Duty games had a literal prestige system that gave you a new icon next to your gamer tag each time you reset your rank, and would also unlock extra custom class slots, among other things. You could also work towards things like pro perks that would be unlocked by completing various challenges while using those specific perks. Camos and skins that would unlock on XP and challenges completed with specific weapons. And in Black Ops 1, there were even COD points that were actual in-game currency.
Oh, that's
Not
cool.
a premium currency like the COD points of today, but in-game money you earned through playing. And that could be used to buy and unlock specific cosmetics. And one of the coolest parts about COD points was that you could gamble them in wager matches of Gun Game, One in the Chamber, Sticks and Stones. Now these are badass ways to progress in a game and engage players long term without the need of drip feeding content or purchasing a battle pass.
Yeah.
The thing is, because the in-game progression was so engaging, many players like myself did not hesitate one bit to drop $15 for a new map pack that would release every few months.
But the problem is, now that Fortnite's made so much money and they showed there's more money in battle passes, everyone's going to it because it makes more money and they're not getting punished for doing it. Simple
Core
reason.
Game's foundation was so strong that map packs only added to the already great experience. Now you compare that to the Call of Duty of today, where almost all forms of in-game progression are completely gone, like prestige, pro perks, in-game currency, and has been completely replaced by
Yeah, so on top of paying for the game, they just make you pay a subscription. And there's no reason to, but they do this because, again, they get away with it and people pay. The only way this will ever go away is if you stop paying and everyone else does. So the best thing you could do is to just not play Call of Duty. Just don't play it. Play something else.
passes, and the cash shop. Sure, the content post-launch is free, but if you pay attention to said content, you know just how much bullshit they feed you with that promise. For one thing, Call of Duty games now launch with far less content than they used to. A game like Black Ops
So again,
2 launched
they
with
don't get
multiplayer maps.
the market doesn't punish them because the sales don't go down. People still buy it. So why would they ever put more content? There's no financial incentive for them to do so.
And after its 4 map packs, there were a total of 31 maps, and zombie maps and weapons and camos and things like that as well. But with the latest Modern Warfare 2, it launched with 10 maps, and has since reskinned 3 maps, from previous older CODs, and only added 2 new ones, making its total 15 so far, which is pretty pitiful, because that's what Black Ops 2 started off with. So not only are we getting much less content, probably content that was cut from the base game and just drip fed over time to be honest, but the progression systems have been replaced with $10 battle passes and $20 cosmetic bundles. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather spend $30 to get 8 maps,
Yeah.
a new weapon, couple zombie maps,
I agree.
than to spend $30 on a new Black Cell battle pass.
The difference is, it's both those are DLC. The difference is you get one instantly. It enhances gameplay. This basically makes you pay to play, except it's a subscription, so it's every month. This is a problem. And again, if no one paid for this, they would stop doing it.
Bundle. And this same example can be applied when comparing any modern day live service to the version of themselves from the past. So when players say something like, hey, just ignore the cash shop, or you don't have to buy the battle.
Know what you should do? Instead of avoiding the cash shop, what you do is just don't play the game, period. And if you're going to spend money in the game, just stop playing it, play something else. That's the only way you get around this.
Pass. The problem is that these systems have overridden in-game progression systems entirely.
That's why I don't play
So
these
you either
games.
Ignore them and have nothing to work towards or unlock, or you go ahead and buy into the systems, which are objectively less engaging than previous systems, and only keep you around because there's an expiration date attached to it. You're playing more out of FOMO than enjoyment of the progression experience itself, because games are now solely designed around FOMO and whales. And that's what I think so many people fail to realize. You can't just ignore the fact.
By the way, whenever I hear that screams of mobile games in a way, because I know a lot of mobile games are based off that. And again, really to me, it screams that they've attracted a casual market, casual gamers, and casual gamers are much more profitable than core gamers. So because of that, AAA studios have become, they become studios that make games for casual gamers. So if you're a core gamer, you shouldn't be buying from AAA companies anymore. They're not making games for you. They're making games for casual gamers. So unless you consider yourself a casual gamer, stop buying from AAA companies. Buy from indie games. And Nintendo, they still make games for everyone. They're an exception because they're a very different company. But pretty much everyone else, just stop buying AAA games. They're made for casual gamers, not you.
That a game is
Unless you're a
missing
casual
content
gamer.
and its progression systems in order to foster and nurture these beluga whales and FOMO addicts. It's baked into every single element of the experience. And this is why From Software games are the antidote to this poisonous design philosophy, which is why their games are so popular. Their communities aren't just made up of only elitist, sweaty tryhards like so many.
Here's the thing though, this makes less money than Madden, simply because Madden, again, has casual gamers. More people buy it. There's more money. People buy this in-game stuff. This very small market, not as many people play it, makes less money.
Armies tend to think. It's made up of people who love video games. Because when you get invaded or you see another player briefly at a bonfire and you see their weapon, their helmet, their armor piece, whatever it is.
And that's the thing is, whenever you have a corporation that's only goal is to make money, it goes directly against what makes a game good. So because of that, you can't really buy from big companies, and if you do, you need to be very careful because their main goal is to make money, not benefit you.
You know that that item is obtainable in the game today, tomorrow, next week, forever. And you're gonna get it through completing some epic challenge or encounter. And it's exciting to see things you've never seen before, because maybe you thought you'd seen everything this game had to offer, but there's always more than you think. And then you uncover and explore areas that may hold new secrets. Now when you compare that to your average live service game, like Destiny 2, where seeing other players in the world, you might see something cool like you've never seen before, but that item most likely came from a battle pass, or a bright engram, or more likely, the cash shop. I don't know about you guys, but I hate being reminded of battle passes and cash shops in a world I'm trying to immerse myself in. It completely kills the experience.
Yeah, I didn't even think that's a great point too, because if you pay for a game once and just play it, the real world outside influences, they remind you of your job that you work that maybe you don't like, all those other factors. When you're playing a game, you're trying to get away from it. So it makes sense to, you have these microtransactions, it's reminding you of your bank account, your wallet, and spending money while playing a game where you already spent the money. Why are you spending more money?
The way it would be if I saw cash
Or why do I have to
items
spend more money?
in Dark Souls. Now, FOMO tactics and cash ops won't work on everyone. Because
They
a
don't
lot of
work on
people
me.
realize that they're just running on a hamster wheel at some point and decide to hop off and find experiences that still deliver an actual video game. There's a reason Elden Ring, again, sold more copies than a lot of these live service companies can even fathom. It has all the cosmetics, all the progression systems, and all the content.
But
And
you
not
buy
one
it once
single
and it's just there for
battle pass or
gameplay.
microtransaction. And the best part, DLC is on the way, and that's going to be a day one purchase for most of those satisfied 20 million customers. As has been the case with
That's
all
the thing, right? Is that all these customers are core gamers. It's just that they made a game that attracts a lot of core gamers. It'll never. The truth is, casual gamers are just more profitable. So AAA companies will just
previous
always
From Software
go after them
games
unless
and
they
their
stop
DLCs.
paying.
Because making a good game will net positive results. It really is that simple. But that takes talent and a bit of risk. So even with all these live service games flopping left and right, these corporations will continue to invest in them until one of them sticks. And then they will milk it till the end of time. And as much as I wish I could agree with others who say that live service games are just a fad, I just don't think that's true, as far as at least multiplayer games are concerned. Remember that McDonald's example I made
Yeah.
in the beginning of the video? Well, we live in a world now where that's the reality with gaming. If McDonald's will charge $30 for a meal.
The difference though is that there's still competition, so the Burger King still exists. It's just that instead of a Burger King, it's some local restaurant that's cheaper, or some local food chain. Because you don't know about it, you think McDonald's is the only option. So when you start looking, you realize that there are much cheaper options.
Burger that's drip fed to you slowly over time. You know, today you get the bun, tomorrow you get the patty, next week you get the mustard and the pickles.
That's
What
a good
can you do at
analogy.
that point? Well, I guess you would go to the competition, right? But what happens when the competition is charging?
That's the
same
thing
price?
though, is that the competition does exist. It's just that it's not the Wendy's or the Burger King. It's Joe's fast food shop, right? He just makes some random food chain. Those are the guys that are competing and making better products. Is it maybe as fancy? Is the brand as well known? No. But it's cheaper and the product still ends up being better.
For all their burgers too. Well, you either pay $30 for a burger or you make your own burger.
Yeah, here we go. Great point. Great point.
And I guess making your own burger means single player gaming. Now, unfortunately, lots of single player games these days are also live service. And
This is why I don't like how so many games. No, it doesn't really bother me that many games are going online because I don't really play most of these. I just stay away from them. Because again, most indie games don't stay online anyway. It makes sense. They want to make money. Like it goes directly against how indie games work anyway. But yeah, I do think like games going online, it is bad simply because if the game studio happens or they want to cut the servers early, now you can't play the game.
more ways than a few. I think Ubisoft has been one of the largest examples of monetizing their single player experiences through all the old fashioned ways like deluxe editions and pre orders, but they were some of the first to actually put in microtransactions for their single player games. And at first it was just a couple cosmetics, then it was
I still can't believe that's a thing
then
that
time
exists.
savers and XP skips. But in 2020 with Assassin's Creed Valhalla,
Like imagine playing Mario and you needed to spend $1 every time you wanted to get extra lives instead of being able to earn them in game. Imagine how much that would suck.
I feel like they really did create a completely live service single player game. It had all the previously mentioned items.
Imagine you're playing Zelda and instead of being able to unlock the better sword, you have to spend $5 to get a stronger sword, or you play the rest of the game with the stuff you have. That's like how it
Also, premium
feels like.
currencies, events and holiday events, limited time items, features like icons on the map that are sold for extra, and multiple expansions that cost almost as much as the base game. To be completely honest, it was awful, but people loved that shit, so it made them over $1 billion. Now, not every single player game is that bad with their
Again, this, without a doubt, had how much? All right, let's take the numbers. So 152 million. This is great. That's a lot of money. You look at this, $1 billion. This is why most companies do it. There's more money in it, and people are willing to pay. Simple
So it
answer.
made them over $1 billion. Now, not every single player game is that bad with their microtransactions, but a lot of them are in that ballpark. Even a game like Cyberpunk that does not have microtransactions is still treated like a live service game. Updates, overhauls,
Well, that's a
additions,
different situation. That has to deal with games delivering false promises. And again, that's why you should... yeah, I think I pretty much... Like, how do I say this? You need to be... I think this really has to do with people pre-ordering games. You should never... there's zero reason to pre-order a game today because you have every reason to wait. Because, again, really it's just because you're impatient. You're telling me you can't wait another 2 weeks for a game to be out before you play it.
changes, balance tweaks, addressing feedback.
Really, it just is that... I think this is the real problem. I figured it out. Is that most gamers are impulsive. That's where it really comes down to. Most gamers are impulsive. Makes sense. They play games where being impulsive is fine. But now all of a sudden, they're getting exploited by it with monetary ways. Same reason why people pre-order. It's because gamers are impulsive. That's the reason why we're in the situation we're in. And I think just being aware of it, if more people are aware of that, then it will stop. Until that happens, this will never go away.
And that's kind of cool, I guess, right? The game desperately does need those things for, honestly, probably years to come as well.
The game needed it before it came out. Let's be real here.
But again, it goes back to that idea that developers don't need to make their launches count anymore. Ship now, fix it later isn't just exclusive to live service multiplayer games anymore. It's infected single player as well. So the only real alternatives to modern gaming is indie games or old single player titles, which I've been doing a lot over the last...
Oh, that's another game, right? Here's the thing, right? Most old games are free. They cost money. I mean, you spend like it takes like 2 minutes. No, not even it takes like a minute and a half. You could very easily find old games. Guess what? 2 reasons why I play a lot of old games. Why do I play a lot of old games? 2 reasons. 1, free. Biggest reason right there. Free. And I also have a bunch of consoles, like, for example, playing Nintendo games. This is great. If you hack, like, a PS4, you could do that. I have a PS2, because my dad had it. Right, he gave it to me. So that's something you could hack, too. And PS2 games are dirt cheap, right? You could spend... The amount of money you spend on a AAA game, you can spend that money on, like, 4 to 5 PS2 games in the box. I like to buy games completed in the box. But if you don't, you could probably buy, like, 10 at least PS2 games. So there's one thing. And those are great experiences that you could have that already exist, which are much cheaper. And if you keep playing old games, what happens is the new games become old and then you can play them.
Last year, and have been really enjoying. And honestly, my backlog is big enough at this point that I'll probably be good for quite a while. But if you'd rather not do that and you want a multiplayer experience, you might seek out indie games again, or mods and custom servers for existing games. Now, unfortunately, there's also been an attack on a lot of those from game publishers lately. And say you don't want to do either of those 2 options, I guess it's either live with it or quit gaming entirely. But I would definitely recommend trying options 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think really what this video shows is that if you're someone that likes multiplayer games, this isn't a great situation for you. What? I just remembered. There is Minecraft. That's actually a game that has a lot of support. Actually, there are mods too. You could find a server that's hosted by like 5-6 people that's modded. If you really want to play a multiplayer game and you're tired of all this BS, look into Feed the Beast servers. Find a group of people you can play on a server with and play like Minecraft's great, by the way. I'm telling you, it may change your life.
You might be surprised at the enjoyment you can have and the experiences found in those 2. But I do genuinely think that live service gaming is here to stay, and it's not going away.
Yeah, it won't go away till it's going to stay for a very long time.
It more and more, potentially to the point where the industry may have another crash, like the one from 1983.
It may.
Was caused by
I don't think it'll happen for a little bit though.
Rip-offs of each other, which sounds.
I don't see that happening till at least 5 years from now. Easy. Yeah, I would say easy. Maybe 5 years from now we could start seeing signs. I think realistically 10 years from now, I think there's a decent chance it happens. I could also see what happening 20 years from 15 years from now, 20 years from now. I'd say I would be surprised. I'm going to say my prediction is 10 years from now, so 2033 we see a video game crash. I think that makes sense.
Familiar to today, But realistically, unless more people straight up quit playing them, which isn't likely, they're definitely here to stay.
Well,
Now,
even if you don't quit playing them, as long as you quit playing them, it's fine. This was a great video. I really enjoyed it. Here, I'll link it to you guys. Yeah, really good video. Alright, so that's the last video I'm gonna do for today. Hope you enjoyed. Last night I did record some watching some videos, so they will go on YouTube. Tomorrow I have something, so I won't be streaming tomorrow till much later. And then there will be a great Sunday stream. Alright, I'll see you guys later.